He thought it was just another cold Chicago night. Just a quick stop to buy hot chocolate for his kids. But when the single dad noticed the cashier's hands trembling, he asked one simple question, and her answer left him completely speechless. By the end of that night, 2 lives would change forever. It was one of those nights when the world felt too quiet, too heavy. The snowflakes drifted lazily down, blanketing the streets of Chicago in cold silence. Daniel Brooks drove through the empty roads, the hum of his old pickup truck echoing softly in the night. His hands were sore, his mind tired, but there was something peaceful about these late drives after work. He wasn't rich, but he had something more important. 2 kids who waited for him every night with sleepy eyes and warm hugs. And tonight, he just wanted to make them smile. The fluorescent lights of the convenience store cut through the darkness as he parked. He stepped inside, rubbing his palms together for warmth. The smell of coffee and cold air mixed strangely, the kind of scent that reminded him of long winters and harder times. His eyes fell on the cashier, a young woman who looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her pale fingers trembled as she tried to scan his items, her voice soft but uneven. Daniel noticed the way her hands shook, not from cold but from something deeper. Exhaustion, maybe fear. He leaned forward slightly, concern etching across his face. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, his tone careful, gentle. She jumped a little, forcing a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yeah, just tired," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But Daniel saw the truth. Her body was tense, her hands were trembling harder. The next moment, a cup slipped from her grasp, shattering on the tile floor. She gasped, apologizing over and over, crouching down to pick up the broken pieces. "I'm sorry." "I'll pay for it," she muttered, her voice breaking. Daniel immediately knelt beside her, picking up the shards with steady hands. "Hey, don't worry about it. It's just a cup," he said softly. She froze for a second as if she wasn't used to kindness. When their eyes met, he saw it. Pain, hidden behind exhaustion. When she stood up, her eyes were glassy with tears. "I'm fine," she whispered again, almost convincing herself more than him. But Daniel shook his head. "You sure? You look like you haven't eaten or slept properly in days," he said quietly, his voice carrying more warmth than pity. She hesitated, the truth fighting its way out. Finally, she looked down, her lips trembling. "I haven't," she said. "My mom's in the hospital. I can't afford to miss work. It's just been too much." Her voice cracked on the last word, and Daniel felt his chest tighten. He knew what it was like, to be cornered by life, to fight alone. She wasn't just tired. She was breaking. He looked down at the things on the counter, the hot chocolate and marshmallows his daughter loved, and something inside him shifted. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Emily," she replied, blinking fast to stop the tears. Daniel nodded. "Emily, hang in there, okay? You're not alone." His words were simple, but they made her pause. For the first time that night, her lips curved into a faint, shaky smile. He paid for his things and stepped out into the cold, the wind biting at his face. But he couldn't stop thinking about her, about those trembling hands and the weight behind her tired eyes. As he drove home, the world outside blurred past in streaks of white and gray. He didn't know why, but he had a feeling this wasn't the last time he'd see her. Something about that moment, about her, stayed with him. The kind of moment that quietly changes the direction of a life. And as he pulled into his driveway, he whispered to himself, almost without realizing it, "This isn't over. To be continued." The next evening, Daniel couldn't shake the image of Emily from his mind. Her trembling hands, her exhausted eyes, that forced smile hiding pain. Something about her had stayed with him all day at work. He'd been through tough times himself, but seeing her reminded him of a version of himself he thought he'd left behind. A man who knew what it meant to struggle, yet still hoped for light. So he made a decision. It wasn't logical or planned. It just felt right. He grabbed the little envelope he'd filled the night before and drove back through the snowy streets of Chicago. The world outside wrapped in silence and cold. When he entered the store, everything looked the same. The flickering fluorescent lights, The hum of the refrigerator, the faint smell of coffee. But when Emily looked up and saw him, something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, maybe even fear. She wiped her hands on her apron and tried to smile. "You came back," she said softly. Daniel nodded, stepping closer. "Yeah, I wanted to check on you. You still hanging in there?" She looked down, her voice quiet, fragile. "Trying to." The way she said it broke something inside him, a single word carrying all her exhaustion. Her helplessness, her quiet fight to keep going. Daniel took a deep breath and reached into his jacket pocket. He placed the small envelope on the counter. "I don't mean to pry," he said gently, "but maybe this can help." Her eyebrows knit together as she looked at the envelope. "What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Just open it," Daniel said. When she did, her eyes widened in disbelief. $500 in cash, every bit of his month's savings after bills and groceries. She gasped, her hands shaking again, but this time from shock. No, I can't take this," she said, pushing the envelope back. Daniel smiled faintly. "Emily, you said your mom's in the hospital. You shouldn't have to choose between helping her and keeping your job." For a moment, she just stared at him, as if she couldn't understand why anyone would do this for her. Tears welled in her eyes and spilled over. "Why would you do this? You don't even know me." Daniel looked down, his voice soft but steady. "Because someone once did the same for me. When I lost my wife 4 years ago, I didn't know how to start again. People like you, strangers, help me remember that kindness still exists. Maybe it's time I pass that forward." She covered her mouth, crying quietly, her whole body trembling. But her hands, the same ones that shook endlessly the night before, had finally stopped. For the first time in weeks, someone had seen her. Not just a cashier, not a tired worker, but a human being who mattered. "I'll pay you back," she whispered between tears. Daniel shook his head. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "Just promise me one thing. When life gives you the chance to help someone else, do it." Emily nodded through her tears, her voice breaking as she said, "I will." As Daniel walked out into the freezing night, the snow still falling in soft waves, he felt something he hadn't in a long time. Peace. A quiet warmth that had nothing to do with the weather. Months passed and life carried on. One morning, a letter arrived in his mailbox with no return address. Inside was a photo of Emily and her mother, standing outside a hospital, smiling, alive, free. Daniel smiled as he read the words written in shaky handwriting at the bottom of the note. "You changed 2 lives forever." He stared at the photo for a long time, his eyes glistening, because sometimes the smallest act of kindness becomes the moment that changes everything.